What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Monday Motivation. I'm super pumped for this one. How do I say? We just spoke about this in my Unbreakable program right now with my clients, and it really hit the nerve with me, massive nerve with me. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to talk about to everyone on Monday to get them aware, pumped up, and more about on this one would be about level of acceptance in ourselves. So before we do that, massive shout out to all of our Patreon members. Thank you so much for continuing to become a part of who we are, what we align with, and how you are growing something far greater, not just for the podcast, but for our people who want more out of life, people who want to feel like they have more meaning, they're learning, they're educating, and this is the stepping stone for it. So massive shout out to everyone, and shout out to all our sponsors. Couldn't be doing this without you guys also. First of all, before we get into the episode, we had a mastermind on Saturday last week, and it was a really good one, really, really powerful one. A lot of people left there feeling energized. A lot of people left there feeling more aware of themselves, what they really want out of life, why they are in their way. Like, a lot of people blame others for why they aren't doing what they're doing. Well, the talk on Saturday really hyper-focused on you are your biggest roadblock, and you need to understand what your limiting beliefs are in order to get over to your fantasy island, wherever you want to be, where you want to achieve. So that was amazing. So amazing work on that. This is just about to say, this is sparkling water from Liquid Death. That's not a can of Monster for brekkie or anything like that. So shout out to Liquid Death, sponsor us. So guys, I want to go through an area today that I've discussed, and I've got the laptop in front of me, which has a lot of topics that we discussed today. And one thing that I noticed, so last week I had an allergic reaction to something, and it brought me up in a massive, looked like just a heat rash all over my body. Hands and feet were sore. And basically I went to the pharmacy to get some medication for it, and it made me really drowsy to the extent where I felt really down. And I'm not someone really good on medication anyway, but it just made me really, the medication was had some form of drowsiness in it, but it just knocked me apart where I couldn't even focus. I wasn't present, and started to question and spiral and starting to think, was something else going on? This isn't just allergic reaction. And how many times have people done that? One thing's going on, before you know, they're looking at other areas of their life to find out what's actually going on. And before you know it, you're Googling, and Google's telling you you've got to amputate your leg off and you potentially have cancer. And we just get in our own head. So when I did that, I went to the GP after it, and they gave me some other medication, which didn't make me feel as anxious, brain fog, and started to clear the weeds out of my head, and I feel so much better for it. So I feel like a new man. So it gave me a bit of a reflection on, wow, we take for granted the little things in us, our health, take away from what we have in our life instead of what we don't have, you know, what good we have. And that's coming back to gratitude. So grateful for my health, so grateful. It's a game changer. So anyway, guys, today's topic. Now, I'm sure that everyone, not even 99, 100% of the world has experienced this to an extent. And it's something we all do, and it's called burnout. So the topic is, you can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first so you can be the best to others. It's a bit like when you go on a plane, and they say, in case of emergency, when your mask drops down, make sure you put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. Now, you can't help others unless you've got oxygen going through yourself first, right? So that is essentially where we're at. Burnout. And only the first person to go when this happens is ourselves. So, like I said, we're going to talk about that today and the common issues high achievers face with burnout. But before we start, I've got a little introduction here. So welcome. What I want to talk about, with high achievers, we're often praised for their ability to go above and beyond. They say yes to every opportunity. They take on extra tasks. They want to help everyone around them because they feel validated by doing so. But here's the problem. You can't pour from an empty cup. For many high achievers, there's this sense that if they aren't constantly working, helping, or making progress, they aren't enough. This is what I call the Mr. Nice Guy. Mr. Nice Guy syndrome. A tendency to say yes to everyone and everything, even when it's draining your energy. Burnout happens when we stop setting boundaries and begin to neglect our needs. We think, if I just do one more thing, if I help one more person, if I take on this extra task, things will get better. But that's not how it works, guys. That's not how it works. So today we're going to go through a lot of areas on this. We're going to go through a lot of areas. So the common issues high achievers deal with on burnout is overcommitting and saying yes to everything, like I just talked about, lack of boundaries, the desire to please everyone, perfectionism, and self-criticism, neglecting self-care. Now, what are these things and how do we stop it? How do we work on it? Now, if you can take anything from today, please understand the key component to all of this is a level of awareness. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym to get stronger every day or get better every day. You go to the gym to maintain a certain level, to tick that box of feeling better, to tick that box of resilience. I'm not going to the gym to be the next Ronnie Coleman. I'm going to the gym just to make sure I'm ticking over. I'm feeling better. I'm doing better. I'm trying to improve on a day-to-day basis. When you get to a level of peak in strength, or maybe you're at your fittest, you don't just stop. You continuously do it. Having that level of awareness that I need to keep topping up. That is essentially what we need to do with ourselves. That's how we should treat our mind. So high achievers often find themselves overcommitted because they don't know how to say no. They might fear disappointing others, leading to excessive workloads and stress. And then when it comes to boundaries, guys, you struggle to define and enforce personal boundaries, whether it's in work, relationships, or personal time. This leaves them with no time to rest or personal care, often resulting in physical and emotional exhaustion. Why the fuck do you sometimes want to cry? Why the heck do you sometimes feel overwhelmed when nothing's going on? Because you just basically did a marathon on the weekend of workload and you haven't given yourself that moment to reset and just sit, be. And then that perfectionism, the pressure to be perfect in everything that we do, adds more weight to their shoulders. When things don't go to as planned, that internal critic gets louder, amplifying feelings of failure. How about that, guys? And I know while I'm talking about this right now, a lot of you are going to be going, shit, I've been there, that's me. Neglecting self-care. So high achievers tend to put everything else before their own well-being. Sleep, nutrition, and mental health takes a backseat as they focus on meeting the demands of others. Now, when people think about mental health, I'm going to be honest, people put this crazy meaning behind mental health. Like, if you've got mental health, you're depressed. Well, no. It's like going to the gym. Like I said, mental health should be treated like a day-to-day. I need to make sure that my cup is full, and these are the things I do to look after my own care, my own level of care, my duty of care, which is going to improve my mental health. Don't see the word mental health as a negative. See the word as you need to top that up every day, whether that's going for a walk, exercising, journaling, meditating, having some form of solitude, calling a friend, whatever it is that brings you internal joy. That's you. So 3 areas to improve and prevent burnout. So this is the biggest one, I believe, is setting and enforcing healthy boundaries. So start by identifying your non-negotiables. What areas of your life do you need to protect? Is it your family time? Is it your personal health? Once you know what's sacred to you, practice saying no to the things that don't align with your values or priorities. For instance, someone might invite you to something on a Friday night or a Saturday, but you're exhausted. But it's not essentially that you don't want to do it. It's the fact that you're struggling to say no to this person. You're struggling to let this person down. Now, last weekend I got invited to two events. One was the football, and the other one was going to a special guest who was being a speaker, and you're you're invited on a table. I can't remember the terminology of it, but you know what I'm trying to say. Well, I was like, no, I'm knackered. And then I sent the text to the person who asked me, and it was just simple. No, I really appreciate the offer, but I'm good, thank you. Now, when I say that out loud, that sounds like nothing. But when there's some form of emotional weight, when you don't want to let someone down or you feel like you're upsetting someone, it seems so much harder. But when we say it out loud, it's not that bad, is it? And you're not being a dick for it either. And that person doesn't really mind either. But it's what we hold behind it. So ask yourself, are you people pleasing or are you being true to yourself? Do you need to do that thing? Is that going to light you up inside, and where you're going? What is it you're achieving? If not, is it needed right now? Is it needed right now? And that's what it comes down to, boundaries and prioritizing yourself and communicating that. So make saying no a habit, guys. You don't have to explain yourself. It's simple. I'm not available. That's enough. Literally, that is enough. The next one then is learning to prioritize your own needs. So implement self-care rituals in your daily routine. Schedule time for rest, exercise, and socializing. Recognize that your value isn't tied to your productivity, and taking time for yourself enhances your ability to help others. Now, we were talking earlier, and I said that, and I was speaking about this in work, in a place of work, you know. So many people take time off for burnout, and they take it off as a holiday because they don't want to let their team down, or they don't want to see it as a going on sick because they're burnt out, or they don't want to take any form of time out. But the reality is, if you are doing that, which is, if you want to do it, you want to do it, and you're trying to not let the team down, when they notice your productivity over the next couple of weeks is shocking, well, your manager, your boss might come down to you and go, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? You're just noticing that your input is dropped over the comparison to the last couple of months. Well, when you have that meltdown because you've been holding it in for the last month, and you get upset in front of the person, well, this storm, which could have been in a teacup, is now a big storm because you haven't addressed what was going on a month ago. You haven't pulled yourself aside, because if you are a high achiever and you're listening to this, you usually take on other people's work because you want to help them as well. So you're taking on your work, their work. So you're doing two people's work in one. And you're now burnt out. Now, that's on you. And that's boundaries and communicating that. But there's a level of awareness to say, look, I just need to take some time off. I need to recharge. I need a long weekend. I need to go away for a bit. That's on you, guys. But recognizing, sorting that out there and then, and not prolonging that for another month or two and then having that meltdown, that's the difference. So, the key tip for you is self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you offer others. For instance, if your friend was sick, if they weren't doing well, or something happened, I bet you right now, if you're listening to this, because you're that type of person, you'll drop them a text. How are you doing? Is everything okay? Now, that level of compassion you had them and advice you'd give them, you need to give that to yourself. You need to give that to yourself and say, take some time off, have the morning to yourself. Don't have to respond to everyone on WhatsApp. You don't have to be the first to reply. You don't. You don't have to go through that document right now. Just have some you time. It's so much easier to say to someone else. Say it to yourself. And then the biggest one, and this is a great podcast I'm listening to at the moment, but it's addressing the Mr. Nice Guy syndrome. Recognize the root cause of your people-pleasing tendencies. Often it's a fear of rejection or not being enough. Take time to explore that. Explore these fears and begin to challenge them. Being kind is important, but it's okay to be assertive and direct about your own needs without feeling guilty. Now, you don't have to go and slam the boss's door open and tell him straight what's going on. This might start by just small little assertiveness settings. It doesn't have to be big things. It could just be like, no, I don't need that. It could be something as simple as like, you've had a coffee already this morning, someone's offered you another coffee and it's in a social setting, you don't want to let them down. You take the coffee and you're going to be super caffeinated right now, and that's going to make you anxious. That's just a simple scenario. Just say, no, I don't want that. Or if it's in a social setting and you don't want a beer, no, I don't want that at the moment. I appreciate it though, but I'm good. I'm just going to have some zeros. Whatever it is, guys, this is going to bring more power to you. And it's being comfortable with yourself. You don't have to be that person to be there for everyone else. Be there for yourself. Honestly, guys. Have a level of acceptance in yourself and being okay with that, because if you are forever trying to please everyone else, you're kind of an enemy to yourself. If you're trying to be friends with everyone else, you're an enemy to yourself. But if you communicate your needs and implement boundaries and still speak your truth in a kind way, well, the right people will be there, but not everyone. And if you stick to your values as a person, well, that's when you connect with other people who have the same values as you. But you've got to be comfortable in knowing that when you go on this growth, when you go on this journey of life of, I want to better myself, well, not all of that friendship circle you had back then is going to stay there. Some are going to leave because they don't want to be a part of that and they don't think that's cool for them and their image. And that's okay. They were never meant to be there for you. But the right people will stay, and the right people you're going to meet on the journey. But you've got to accept that there's going to be a level of loneliness in that journey to get there. Because it's like, I'm growing as a person. I'm getting up to this level. That's where these type of people sit. I'm going to have to be patient on my own journey to get there. There's going to be a transition. And it's being okay in that transition. You're going to have a bit of a wobble internally. There's going to be a part of you that's removing in order to gain that new part that you desire. So, understand this is all part of the plan. This is all part of the journey. You're not losing yourself. You're recalibrating the real version of you. You're letting in the real version of you come in. And be okay with that. It's going to be ugly a little bit, but nothing worth wanting is going to be super easy. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be parts of you that are going to come into these situations, and there's going to be a mirror reflecting back at you about yourself. And there's going to be parts that you like about it, and parts you don't like, the people-pleasing parts, communicating and the boundaries. And you're going to have to sit in the ugly for a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. It'll get easier the more and more you do it. Trust me. Now, guys, there's an area, and I want to talk about this story actually, bugger it. I was gonna hold it off, but I'm gonna talk about it now, and this is really interesting. So 4 or 5 years ago when I started the coaching, when I started becoming a mindset coach and getting accredited and, you know, putting myself out there, and I remember starting the social media and talking, and we had a group of friends that in Australia that you know, people I would train with, I started doing triathlons with, and there was this one guy there, and this is something I'm going to tell you right now about people pleasing. There was this one guy there, right, that wasn't a bad guy. He was a good guy. But regardless, whatever I did, I always had this mock off him, this joke off him. I mean, I was okay with that for an extent, but behind every joke, there's a level of truth. Remember that. There's always some level of jealousy, anger, bitterness, resentment. And the people pleaser in me always wanted to prove the guy wrong. Wanted to prove to him that I was good enough. Level of, I want him to like me. Why doesn't he like me? Like, he liked me, but not to the level I had of anyone else. Well, anyway, every time I did something well, I always noticed he'd mock me. Whatever, and I try a little bit harder, and it just got exhausting in the end, to the extent where he was a bigger guy than me. Like, he carried a bit more weight, and over time, whenever he'd lose weight, I'd be the first guys to compliment him. I'd always be like, well done, man. I wouldn't take the piss out of him. I'd be so happy for him because I wanted him to do good, and I could see he was putting the work in. But no matter how much I did, whenever I did something, it got smacked back in my face. And I remember this one time when I started putting on social media, I started promoting myself, I started talking. There's a level of fear. You know, your confidence is not fully there at the start. You're putting yourself out there, potentially to be stood on. You know, people take the mick and whatnot. But I didn't expect that out of my friends. And I remember this one time something happened, and anyway, he started putting these comments on my content, which I was very passionate about. And it really hurt me because it was negative comments. And I remember I got so worked up about it. And I got to the breaking point. And I went to the guy's apartment and I confronted him. And when I confronted him, I said, me and you, let's have a chat right now. And I'm not going to say the full extent of what I said, but I called him out. And I remember I was nervous, my leg was shaking. I was stepping out of my comfort zone, I was confronting someone. And I said, let's take this away from your house. Let's talk outside. I'm going to say this in a PG version. Well, anyway, when we started talking and it was just me and him, I was about to whatever. And he just dropped the gun. He said, yeah, that was me. Because he was denying it the whole time. He goes, yeah, that's me. And I said, why? Why? I'm always friendly to you. I'm always good to you. I'm always supportive of you. Why are you always mocking me? Why are you always trying to put me down? And he didn't have an answer for it. Well, after that, and what I said to him, I said, I don't ever want to speak to you again. I don't ever want to see your name on anything. I don't want you to comment anything if I find out there's going to be a different way I'm going to deal with this. I walked away feeling free. I walked away with a little bit of guilt, but mainly feeling free. Like, wow, whatever this had on me, I confronted it. Instead of trying to be accepted by this person who was never wanted to accept me, I gave up. I stopped fighting it. And I started to accept myself. And this just weight just fell off me. I just felt, oh, hallelujah. Now, what I'm trying to say is, don't ever change the fact that you are a good person. Don't ever change the fact that you're a nice guy. You want to be good to people. Obviously, be aware of why you're doing it sometimes, or if you're going above and beyond. But those people are the best kind of people. Now, if you were on the other of the spectrum where you didn't care about anyone, and you were just taking off everyone, now, would you want to be that? There's a level of narcissism to that as well. Would you want to be that? You definitely want to be that. Don't beat yourself up for being a nice person. Just be true to yourself on the journey. Prioritize yourself on the way and be the best version of yourself in that. And the right people will come into your life, and the people who are not meant to be there, where they'll go. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And it's a part of the growth. It's a part of the journey. Not everyone's meant to like you, and you're not meant to like everyone. But prioritizing your boundaries and communicating your needs and being the best version of yourself and filling your cup up first, that's a priority. That's a duty of care that you need to do. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, thank you so much to all of our Patreon members. Thank you so much to people who are buying into what we're believing in, and you're not going unnoticed. We have community events coming up. We've got another event on the 15th of August. So if you are someone right now that is keen on jumping on board and becoming more involved, on the 15th of August, we'll be doing our sauna and ice bath morning on the Friday, 15th of August. So if you are listening to this right now and you want to get involved, message the link below, or message me on Instagram or on my WhatsApp, because my link will be in there. Say, Ollie, I'm ready. I'm going to jump on board. I'm already a member. It's all sorted for you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Let's go.